All right. Chapter 3. Grover unexpectedly loses his pants. Confession time. I ditched Grover as soon as we got to the bus terminal. I know it sounds rude, but Grover was freaking me out, looking at me like I was a dead man, muttering, "Why does this always happen? Why does it always have to be 6th grade?" Whenever he got upset, Grover's bladder acted up. So I wasn't surprised when, as soon as we got off the bus, he made me promise to wait for him. Then he made a beeline for the restroom. Instead of waiting, I got my suitcase, slipped outside, and caught the first taxi uptown. East 104th in First, I told the driver. A word about my mother before you meet her. My mom's name is Sally Jackson, and she's the best person in the world. Which just proves my theory that the best people have the rottenest luck. Her own parents died in a plane crash when she was 5. She wanted to be a novelist. So she spent high school working to save enough money for a college and a good creative writing program. Then her uncle got cancer, and she had to quit school her senior year to take care of him. After he died, he was left with no money, no family, no diploma. The only good break she ever got was meeting my dad. I don't have any memories of him, just the sort of warm glow, maybe the barest trace of a smile. My mom doesn't like to talk about him because it makes her sad. She has no pictures. See, they weren't married. She told me he was rich and important and their relationship was a secret. Then one day he set sail across the Atlantic on some important journey and he just never came back. Lost at sea, my mom told me. Not dead, lost at sea. She worked odd jobs, took night classes to get her high school diploma, and raised me on her own. She never complained or even got mad, not even once. But I knew I wasn't an easy kid. Finally, she married Gabe Ugliano, who was nice the first 30 seconds we knew him. Then showed his true colors as a world-class jerk. When I was young, I nicknamed him Smelly Gabe. I'm sorry, but it is the truth. The guy reeked like moldy garlic pizza wrapped in gym shorts. Between the two of us, we made my mom's life pretty hard. The way Smelly Gabe treated her, the way he and I got along, well, when I came home is a good example. I walked into our little apartment, hoping my mom would be home for work. Instead, Smelly Gabe was in the living room, playing poker with his buddies. The television blared ESPN. Chips and beer cans were strewn all over the carpet. Hardly looking up, he said from his cigar, so you're home. Where's my mom? Working. Do you got any cash? That was it. No welcome back. No good to see you. How has your life been in the past 6 months? Gabe had put some weight on. He looked like a tuskless walrus in a thrift store clothes. He had about 3 hairs on his head, all combed over his bald scalp, as if it made him handsome or something. He managed the electronics mega mart in Queens, but he stayed home most of the time. I don't know why he hasn't been fired long before. He just keeps on collecting paychecks, spending the money on cigars that made me nauseous, and on beer, of course, always beer. Whenever I was home, he expected me to provide his gambling funds. He called it our guy secret, meaning if I told my mom, he would punch my lights out. I don't have any cash, I told him. He raised a greasy eyebrow. Gabe could sniff out money like a bloodhound, which was surprising since his own smell should have covered everything else up. You took a taxi from the bus station, he said. Probably paid with a 20, got $6-7 in change. Somebody expects to live under this roof. He ought to carry his own weight. Am I right, Eddie? Eddie, the super of the apartment building, looked at me with a twinge of sympathy. Come on, Gabe, he said. The kid just got here. Am I right? Eddie scowled into his bowl of pretzels. The other 2 guys passed gas in harmony. Fine, I said. I dug out a wad of dollars out of my pocket and threw the money on the table. I hope you lose. Your report card came, little boy, he shouted after me. I wouldn't act so snooty. I slammed the door to my room, but truly wasn't my room. During school months, it was Gabe's study. He didn't study much there except old car magazines, but he loved shoving my stuff in the closet, leaving his muddy boots on my windowsill, and doing his best to make the place smell like a nasty cologne and cigars and stale beer. I dropped my suitcase on the bed. Home sweet home. Gabe's smell was almost worse than the nightmares about Mrs. Dodds or the smell of the old fruit lady's shears with the yarn. But as soon as I thought that, my legs felt weak. I remembered Grover's panicked look, how he'd made me promise I wouldn't leave to go without him. A sudden chill rolled through me. I felt like something was looking for me right now, maybe pounding its way up the stairs, growling a horrible talons. Then I heard my mom's voice. Percy! She opened my bedroom door, and my fears melted. My mother can make me feel good just by walking into the room. Her eyes sparkle and change color in the light. Her smile is warm as a quilt. She's got a few gray streaks mixed in with her long brown hair, but I never think of her as old. When she looks at me, it's like she's seeing all the good things about me, none of the bad. I've never heard her raise her voice or say any unkind word to anyone, not even me or Gabe. Oh, Percy, she hugged me tight. I can't believe it. You've grown since Christmas. Her red, white, and blue Sweet on America uniform smelled like the best things in the world, like chocolate, licorice, and all other stuff she sold at the candy shop in Grand Central. She'd bought me a huge bag of free samples, the way she did when she came home. We sat together on the edge of the bed while I attacked the blueberry sour strings. She ran her hand through my hair and demanded to know everything I hadn't put in my letter. She didn't mention anything about me getting expelled. She didn't seem to care about that, but was I okay? Was her little boy doing all right? I told her she was smothering me into layoff and all that, but secretly, I was really, really glad to see her. From the other room, Gabe yelled, Hey, Sally, how about some bean dip, huh? I gritted my teeth. My mom is the nicest lady in the world. She shouldn't be married to a millionaire, not some jerk like Gabe. For her sake, I tried to sound upbeat about my last days at ENC Academy. I told her I wasn't too down about the expulsion. I'd lasted almost a whole year this time. I'd made some new friends. I'd done pretty well in Latin, and honestly, the fights hadn't been as bad as the headmaster said. I liked ENC Academy. I really did. I put a good spin on the year. I almost convinced myself. I started choking up thinking about Grover and Mr. Bruner. Even Nancy Bobelpit suddenly did not seem to be that bad. Until the trip to the museum. What? My mom asked. Did something scare you? No, Mom. I felt bad lying. I wanted to tell her about Mrs. Dodds and the three old ladies with the yarn, but I thought it would sound stupid. She pursed her lips. She knew I was holding back and didn't push me. I have a surprise for you. We're going to the beach. My eyes widened. Montauk? 3 days, the same cabin. When? She smiled. As soon as I get changed. I couldn't believe it. My mom and I hadn't been to Montauk in the last 2 summers because Gabe said there was not enough money. Gabe appeared in the doorway and growled, Band up, Sally. Don't you hear me? I wanted to punch him, but I met my mom's eyes and understood she was offering me a deal. Be nice to Gabe for a little while, just until she was ready to leave her Montauk. Then we would get out of here. I was on my way, honey, she told Gabe. We were just talking about the trip. Gabe's eyes got small. The trip? Oh, you're serious about that? I knew it. I muttered, he's not going to let us go. Oh, of course he will, my mom said. Your stepfather is just worried about money, that's all. Besides, Gabe won't have to settle for bean dip. I'll make him enough 7-layer dip for the whole weekend. Guacamole, sour cream, the works. Gabe softened a bit. So this money for your trip, it comes out of your clothes budget, right, my ass? Yes, honey, my mom said. And you won't take my car anywhere but there and back? We'll be careful. Gabe scratched his double chin. Maybe if you hurry with that 7-layer dip, and maybe if the kid apologizes for interrupting my poker game. Maybe if I kick you in your soft spot, I thought, and make you sing soprano for a week. But my mom's eyes warned me not to make him mad. Why did she put up with this guy? I wanted to scream. Why did she care what he thought? I'm sorry, I muttered. I'm really sorry I interrupted your incredibly important poker game. Please go back to it right now. Gabe's eyes narrowed. His tiny brain was probably trying to detect sarcasm in my statement. Yeah, whatever, he decided. He went back to the game. Thank you, Percy, my mom said. Once we get to Montauk, we'll talk more about, whatever you've forgotten to tell me, okay? For a moment, I thought I saw anxiety in her eyes. the same fear I'd seen in Grover during the bus ride, as if my mom too felt the chill in the air. But then her smile returned, and I figured I must have been mistaken. She ruffled my hair and went to make Gabe his 7-layer dip. An hour went by, and we were ready to leave. Gabe took a break from his poker game long enough to watch me lug my mom's bags to the car. He kept gripping and groaning about losing her cooking, and more important, his 78 Camaro for the whole weekend. "Oh, not a scratch on my car, brain boy," he warned. "Not one little scratch." Like I'd be the one driving. I was 12. But that didn't matter to Gabe. If his seagull so much as pooped on his paint job, he'd find a way to blame it on me. Watching him lumber back toward the apartment building, I got so mad. I did something I can't explain. As Gabe reached the doorway, I made a hand gesture I'd seen Grover make on the bus, a sort of warding off evil gesture, a claw hand over my heart, then a shoving motion toward Gabe. The screen door slammed shut so hard, it whacked him in the butt and sent him flying up the staircase as if he'd gotten shot from the cannon. Maybe it was just the wind or some freak accident with the hinges, but I didn't stay long enough to find out. I got in the Camaro and told my mom to step on it. Our rental cabin was on the South Shore, way at the tip of the Long Island. It was a little pastel box that faded curtains, half sunken into the dunes. There was always sand in the sheets and spiders in the cabinets, and most of the time the sea was too cold to swim in it. I loved the place. We'd been going here since I was a baby. My mom had been coming even longer. She never exactly said, but I knew why the beach was so special to her. It was the place she met my dad. As we got closer to Montauk, she seemed to grow younger, years of worry and work disappearing from her face. Her eyes turned the color of the sea. We got there at sunset, opening all the cabin windows and went through our usual cleaning routine. We walked on the beach, fed blue corn chips to the seagulls, and munched on blue jelly beans, blue saltwater taffy, and the other kinds of samples my mom brought from work. I guess I should explain the blue food. See, Gabe had once told my mom there was no such thing. They had this huge fight, which seemed really small thing at the time. But ever since, my mom went out of her way to get blue candy. She baked blue birthday cakes. She mixed blueberry smoothies. She made blue corn tortilla chips and brought home blue candy from the shop. This, along with keeping her maiden name Jackson rather than calling herself Mrs. Ugliano, was proof that she wasn't totally suckered by Gabe. She did have a rebellious streak like me. When it got dark, we made a fire. We roasted hot dogs and marshmallows. Mom told me stories about when she was a kid back where her parents died on the plane crash. She told me about the books she wanted to write someday when she had enough money to quit her candy shop job. Eventually, I got the nerve to ask her about what was always on my mind when we came to Montauk, my father. Mom's eyes got all misty. I figured she'd tell me all the same things she always did, but I never got tired of hearing them. "Oh, he was so kind, Percy. Tall, handsome, powerful, but gentle too. You have his black hair, you know, and his green eyes." Mom fished a blue jelly bean out of her candy bag. "I wish he could see you, Percy. He would be so proud of you." I wondered how she could say that. What was so great about me? I'm dyslexic, hyperactive boy with a D+ report card, kicked out of school for the 6th time in 6 years. How old was I when he left? She watched the flames. He was only with me for 1 summer, Percy, right at this beach, this cabin. But didn't he know me as a baby? No, honey. He knew I was going to have a baby, but he never saw you. He had to leave before you were born. I just tried to square that with the fact I seemed to remember something about my father. A warm glow, a smile. I had always assumed he knew me as a baby. My mom never outright said it, but still, I felt it must be true. Now, to be told that he never even met me, I felt angry at my father. Maybe it was stupid, but I resented him for going on an ocean voyage, for not having the guts to marry my mom. He left us, and now we were all stuck with smelly Gabe. "Are you sending me away again to another boarding school?" She pulled a marshmallow from the fire. "I don't know, honey. I think we'll have to do something, because you don't want me around, do you, Mom?" My mom's eyes welled with tears. She took my hand and squeezed it tight. "Oh, Percy, no, I have to, honey, for your own good. I have to send you away." Her words reminded me of what Mr. Bruner had said, that it was best for me to leave Yancey. "It's because I'm not normal." "You say that as if it's a bad thing, Percy, but you don't realize how important you are to me. I thought Yancey Academy would be far away. I thought you'd finally be safe." "Safe from what, Mom?" She met my eye, and a flood of memories came back to me, all the weird, scary stuff that had happened to me, some which I tried to forget. During 3rd grade, a man in a black trench coat had stalked me on the playground. When the teachers threatened to call the police, he went away growling, but no one believed me when I told them that under his broad-rimmed hat, the man had only one eye right in the middle of his head. Before that, a really early memory, I was in preschool and a teacher accidentally put me down for a nap in a cot, and a snake slithered into it. My mom screamed when she came to pick me up and found me playing with a limp, scaly rope. I'd managed to strangle the snake to death with my toddler arms. In every single school, something creepy happened, something unsafe that forced me to move. I thought I should tell my mom about the old ladies in the fruit stand and Mrs. Dodds in the art museum, about the weird hallucination that sliced my math teacher into dust with a sword, but I couldn't make myself tell her. I had a strange feeling the news would end our trip to Montauk, and I didn't want that. I've tried to keep you close to me as I could. They told me it was a mistake, but there's only one other option. Percy, there's a place your father wanted to send you, and I can't stand to do it. My father wanted me to go to a special school? Not a school, a summer camp. My head was spinning. Why would my dad, who hadn't even stayed around long enough to see me, talk to my mom about summer camp? And if it was so important, why hadn't she mentioned it before? I'm sorry, Percy, but I can't talk about it. I couldn't send you to a place it meant saying goodbye for good. For good, but it's only summer camp. She turned toward the fire, and I knew from her expression if I asked any more questions, she would cry. That night, I had a vivid dream. It was storming on the beach, and two beautiful animals, a white horse and golden eagle, were trying to kill each other off the cliff. I woke with a start. Outside, it was storming, the kind of storm that cracks trees and blows down houses. There was no horse or eagle on the beach, just lightning making false daylight in 20-foot waves. With the next thunderclap, my mom woke. She sat up. A hurricane! I knew that was crazy. Long Island never sees hurricanes in the summer. Over the roar in the wind, I heard a distant bellow of angry, tortured sound. Then a much closer noise, like mallets in the sand, a desperate voice, someone yelling, pounding on our cabin door. My mother sprang out of bed in her nightgown and threw open the lock. Grover stood in the doorway against the backdrop of rain, but he wasn't exactly Grover. I've been searching all night. What were you thinking? My mother looked at me in terror, not scared of Grover, but why he had come. Percy, she said, shouting over the rain, what happened at school? What didn't you tell me? I was frozen, looking at Grover. I couldn't understand what he was seeing. Theo! He yelled, it's right behind me. Didn't you tell her? I was too shocked to register that he just cursed in ancient Greek, and I'd understood him perfectly. I was too shocked to wonder how Grover had gotten here by himself in the middle of the night, because Grover didn't have pants on. And where his legs should be, where his legs should be, my mom looked at me sternly and talked in a tone she'd never used before. Percy, tell me now. I stuttered something about old ladies at the fruit stand and Mrs. Dodds, and my mom stared at me, her face deathly pale, with flashes of lightning. She grabbed her purse, tossed me my rain jacket, and said, get in the car, both of you, go! Grover ran for the Camaro, but he wasn't running exactly. He was trotting, shaking his shaggy hindquarters, and suddenly, the story about his disease with his legs made sense to me. I understood how he could run so fast and limp when he walked, because where his feet were, there were no feet. There were hooves. End of chapter.